Dawn lifts over Jericho, and the first fields whisper. A girl pats wet clay onto a wall as her mother gathers barley. The village hum replaces the silence of the trail. This is how wandering ended, how paths became places. Along the great rivers of Mesopotamia and the Nile, the harvest demanded records and rules. Stone rose into monuments. From simple marks in clay, power learned to write itself into history. Law was carved into public walls, and temples tallied the wealth of nations. But authority has always needed more than armies. It needs an idea. In the Mediterranean, philosophers debated the nature of a good life. In South Asia, spiritual questions turned toward duty and dharma. And across the Americas, grand calendars linked human life to the cycles of maize and the stars. So what finally joined these distant worlds? The answer came on the wind and in the sound of camel bells. Classical empires rose, their borders touching. The Silk Road, the ocean lanes, the desert caravans. These were not just routes for trade, but conduits for civilization. Along these networks, a secret for making paper traveled from east to west. Gunpowder followed, changing the face of war. The compass opened the vast empty seas. But with abundance came fragility. When the climate shifted, these same connections that brought wealth carried devastation. The Black Death rode the trade routes, a grim passenger on the ship of progress. Yet humanity endured. The world prepared for its next great acceleration. For what happens when oceans cease to be barriers and instead become highways? Around the year 1500, a sailor on a small caravel tastes salt and fear on a shore he cannot name. These voyages stitched the continents into a single global system. The Great Exchange began, moving maize, microbes, and silver across the waters, remaking diets and decimating populations. An ocean trade built on coerced labor stole millions from their homes. A humble potato, transplanted from the Andes, would one day feed the factories of a new industrial age. The world was both larger and smaller than ever before. New connections brought new questions that cut through ancient crowns. The Enlightenment turned its gaze on the nature of power itself. In America, then in France, the radical ideas of rights, citizenship, and sovereignty erupted into revolution. Soon, another revolution of steam and coal would multiply human hands, reorganizing time, cities, and the very rhythm of life. Capitalist markets, liberal constitutions, and socialist hopes wrestled over justice. Was this liberation or simply faster chains? Progress cast a long shadow. National flags sharpened old rivalries, carving up continents and marching millions into the mechanized slaughter of 2 world wars. In their aftermath, old empires finally cracked. A wave of decolonization swept the globe, but new nations found themselves caught in the chilling standoff of a Cold War. Out of the ashes, we tried to build a better world. Movements for civil rights and women's rights demanded that the circle of belonging be widened. A shared global pulse emerged, carried by media, migration, and markets. Today, digital streams connect us instantly, yet deep inequalities remain. Pandemics and a changing climate remind us that we are all part of a single, fragile system. We now debate the code of life itself and the minds we are building from silicon. The questions are the same as those carved in stone so long ago. Who decides and for whom? The descendant of that first farmer still walks the earth. Her choices, our choices, now ripple across continents in an instant. The story is not over. It is accelerating, and what it asks of us next will be decided by the habits we choose to inherit: curiosity over certainty, empathy over judgment, and wisdom over speed.